Hey guys, Raphael here, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Did you say podcast? Dudes, dudettes! You're listening to a podcast on the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hi, this is Bobby Curnow, Chief Turtle Editor at IDW Publishing, and you are going to have a shell of a good time inside the Pull Bag.
Hello and welcome to the Pull Bag. I am one of your hosts, TFG and Mike. Joining me is Joe Reed. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Today we have the pleasure of welcoming back the turtle who edits IDW Publishing's TMNT comics. Bobby Curnow returns. Hi, Bobby. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me back.
Yep, thanks for coming back.
I'm glad that we can still be one of the podcasts that you do an interview for that won't make you say cowabunga or freak out in your ear. That's my goal.
Okay.
Before we get started, can you give us the scoop on what is going on in the world of Bobby Curnow? Any upcoming turtle events you are allowed to reveal that haven't been revealed already?
I don't think so. We got pretty far out ahead of the game with at our turtle convention, at our turtle panel at San Diego Comic-Con. We announced we're going to see Leatherhead next year. We talked a little bit about Ninja Turtles Batman, which is now pretty well known. So those are sort of the big announcements coming up. We've got some other stuff in the works, but they need to remain a little bit on the down low for right now.
Well, have you? Are you guys doing any other conventions this convention season?
IDW is doing a smattering of different conventions. I'm going to a convention in Buenos Aires in September, and then in October I should be at New York Comic Con. That's not confirmed yet, but I think I'm going to be.
Do you know if any of the artists are getting around to some of the I don't know, Chicago? What's that one? Wizard World Chicago or any of the others like that?
You mean C2E2?
That too.
I'm sure some are, but if IDW isn't there, I'm usually not aware of who's doing what unless it's deadline time and they're late on deadlines. Then I will be curious where they are.
So before we hold you down and pour sewer water down your throat, I want to know. If you were stuck, and this is a stupid desert island question, I'll admit that right up front, folks. If you were stuck on a desert island, what IDW TMNT arc would you want to have with you to read all the time?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe Secret History of the Foot Clan. That's sort of where I felt like the first book where I really felt like we nailed it from start to finish, and I was pretty happy with everything that happened with that. I guess that in lieu of in lieu of anything else coming to my mind immediately, or I guess we're doing these IDW collections now that collect entire year's worth of books, the ongoing and any miniseries that go with them. So I'd try and get one of those books. I think that'd be a longer read.
A good bang for the buck.
Oh my God, I so want that Volume 1. When is Volume 2 coming out for that collection series?
I don't know exactly. Sometime next year, but just literally today I saw Dan Duncan's cover design for Volume 2, and it's got a Splinter as the main figure for that volume. And it looks really great. It's actually the best Splinter I've ever seen him do, so I'm excited for that.
Awesome. Very cool.
That's one of my favorite things that IDW's been doing, especially for the Turtles series, and maybe that's because what I watch, but it's been real easy for us on this podcast to tell people what you need to read to get caught up, and they collect the trades well, and now with the big giant hardcovers that collect the 12 issues worth, that's just so nice to say, hey, now this is what you read, and then you jump on with the current. So, thanks to the company and you for having that all lined up for us.
Cool.
I know
those
are...
I think we're going to have right now our digital team is working on putting a chronology list online. So, anyone who's curious about what falls in where can just go to that and go to our website and check that out. That's not up yet, but it should be within the month, I think. So that's good.
fantastic.
I know it takes you guys a lot of hard work and time putting those giant hardcover volumes in together, but I wish they'd come out faster.
Sure, me too.
So we have you here now, and this is well, you're probably, I can imagine everybody in the office is done with the up to issue 50 work, and you're already beyond that. But a lot of us are still reeling from issue 44. And I guess I want to thank you for not having solicited that issue or bringing up anything about the death of Donatello, because, you know, we all knew when Superman was going to die. Everybody was already on that book, waiting for it to happen, getting the lead up. I read my Turtles comics while sitting outside the comic store, and so when that hit, man, totally unexpected, and you really let all of us listeners feel that. And that was art. But where did the discussion to incapacitate? Because no, we know Donnie is going to be okay in the comic book sense of things, but where did the discussion start to potentially lead the readers to killing off a turtle?
Geez, I don't know. We've had that planned out several years back, at least since City Fall. As we were wrapping up City Fall, we kind of City Fall ended sort of the first half of our road to 50. And so then we started thinking about, and we knew generally some big beats that were going to happen on the road to 50, but then we started fleshing that out more formally. So around then, in Northampton, Donatello starts talking to Splinter about how it's important that they start concentrating on the Technodrome, and Splinter is preoccupied with other things. So we started laying the seeds for it then around issue 29 or 30. So I guess, and that's a good 2 years ago now, but about 14 issues before it actually happened. So around a couple years ago, I guess.
Whose idea was it? Not so we can blame them, but because it was beautifully done. But and I don't know who do you. I can't imagine wanting that to be on my shoulders as a writer. But then again, what a powerful thing to be a part of. So.
That was my idea. Most of the big plotting beats come from me. Kevin and Tom and I will have brainstorming sessions where I usually have a sort of beat sheet of things that I think could work well, and then we'll discuss them. Some things will be shot down, some things will be added from Tom or Kevin. But pretty much the big story beats since around year 2 have been. For me, more or less. I mean, I need to stress it's a collaborative effort, and Tom does all the scripting and really makes the ideas shine. And I come up with a lot of bad ideas too that get shot down. So it's a good collaborative team effort. But that was one of the ones. Geez, I don't know.
Come on now, you can't. No, come
you might
on,
not want
Bob,
to give it away because you might use that bad idea someday.
Yeah, well, the thing is that once the idea goes away, then it's kind of deleted from the memory banks. I can talk about things that were rejected just recently, but then that kind of spoils stuff that happens post 50. So that's the kind of conundrum I'm in. Once it's one of those things where people ask me about what happened in a book a year ago, and I'm like, oh man, I'm not sure I remember, because I'm usually thinking about books a year ahead from now instead of a year ago. So the human brain can only fit so much in, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I'm sorry I don't have a juice tidbit.
I couldn't imagine the pressure of needing to not say the things you're not supposed to say if it hasn't come out yet, but you're already beyond it. So good on you for managing that kind of stress.
Well, it's all fun. Turtles is a lot of fun, so it's all good.
Well, I can imagine that in the letters column you got your fair share of death threats, but any remarkable fan backlash that you guys received, or what was the fan backlash like when you did that?
Pretty minimal. I think some people were definitely pretty upset, and I think Tom got called some names because he's sort of the most visible face on the writing side of this. but overall pretty minimal. The vast majority of it was really supportive and really encouraging and really liked it. The sort of funniest letter we got, and I think it's going to be printed in 49, is someone asking us to tell all the websites to not put in spoilers in the comics. And I'm like, we really have very little control over what people write about it. So that was sort of an amusing request that we got.
How do you, I get in the office, does it affect you when 44 comes out and I went and read the issue, said, oh my gosh, something major happened, and I had my emotional thing, and I went back to the store the very next day and bought the cover B, the second cover. Yeah, I don't usually buy all of them, but I did because something special happened, and then not a day after that, the speculators seem to jump on that and buy it up, dry it up, can't find it anywhere. Does that bother? Well, you're selling books, but how do you feel about the speculators jumping on that?
I mean, there's arguments to be made that speculators are bad long-term for the industry. Mm-hmm. It was sort of a mixed reaction here because obviously we went to 3 printings on 44 and we're still seeing a sustained increase in the readership from 44 on. So everyone's really happy about that. You mentioned we didn't spoil what happened in 44. And that was very deliberate. It was very important to all of us in the creative team that it be a genuine surprise. But we kept it also quiet sort of internally, too. Mm-hmm. Part of it is that we didn't know how big of a reaction it was going to get. We didn't imagine that it was going to get such a big reaction. But that being said, we knew there would be some reaction, but we kind of kept on the downloads because we didn't want to leak, internally either. We didn't want marketing to accidentally start talking about it. So we kept on download. So everyone was kind of surprised. And it's a relatively small team here at IDW who's working on the Turtle book. So the company on the whole was a little bit surprised, I think, at the reaction because we didn't really prep them for it. Partly because we wanted to keep it secret, partly because we didn't know what to expect. So, but yeah, everyone obviously is very happy. It's pretty remarkable for Turtles to be doing as well as it is this far into a run. It's really rare for an issue 44 to go to a 3rd printing. So, everyone was pretty happy.
Well, but between that happening, kind of drawing all of the new readers to the book, I mean, I'm glad to hear that numbers are up. That was my follow-up question there. You guys also did a fantastic job with Free Comic Book Day as another opportunity for us on this podcast to say, go pick up the Free Comic Book Day issue, and then you can start reading immediately at 45. So, good going on that.
Cool. Well, yeah, the Free Comic Book Day was tricky because that actually needed to be to the printer much earlier than even 44, but we knew Pre-Comic Book Day was going to come afterwards, so we need to get some of those illustrations done way ahead of time before even 44 was even started to be worked on. So it's kind of a weird logistical thing to figure out, but I was happy with how that turned out, and I do feel like it's a good jumping on place, so I'm happy to hear that.
The funny thing is with that Free Comic Book Day issue entitled Prelude to Vengeance, you guys pretty much nullified everyone needing to go back and get all 44 issues because there's one panel, there's one giant 2-page spread in that book that basically sums up the last 4 years of the comic. And I was like, wow, they put almost all 4 years worth of big events onto 2 pages. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, you think if you kind of consider it like a panel per trade, then it works out. It works out okay.
Yep. All right, so all the Turtles get a raw deal except Mikey. Now, just hear me out on this. So it seems within the 4-year span of the main ongoing, it has had a lot of emotional arcs taken on everyone except Mikey. Sure, there was the whole thing with him and Woody and their little friendship breaking up and then getting back together, and there was even something in, I believe it was either Secret History or it was Turtles in Time. I think that Mikey
met his mom.
Met his mom as a turtle. Is Mikey ever going to have an emotional storyline? I mean, I know, you got Raph, who wasn't even a part of the team at first, then you got Leo turning evil, and you've quote-unquote killed Donnie. It seems like Mikey is the fun-loving glue to the whole thing. So is he immune to having emotional stuff happen to him?
No, definitely not. I think you kind of answered your own question in that it's definitely, we're kind of still in the midst of Donatello's year, as it were. When you look at it for 12 issues, that kind of comes up to 48, and we'll just kind of fold up to 50 into that. So it's definitely going to be very Mike-centric post 50. So Michelangelo fans out there can expect big things for him coming up.
That's another thing that you've managed to do with IDW is, yeah, I was a child when Turtles was coming out, 10 years old and on. When I was a kid, Mikey was always my favorite character because, he had the catchphrases and ate the pizza and was funny. But as I kind of started to grow older, Mikey became my least favorite because he was the dumb one, the idiot. And I kind of never really jived with that. But what you've done with the IDW series and Mikey, and man, I can't wait to hear Mike's story arc. It's been another. You've brought me back to that character in a good way, and that's great news to hear that we're gonna get to go on a ride with him coming up soon.
Yeah, and that's really a testament to how Tom writes him. Tom, I think everyone can find some personality traits of themselves in a turtle, and I think there's a lot of Tom. There's a lot of Michelangelo in Tom, and there's just such warmth and spirit and vitality in Michelangelo, and that's when I talk about me, sort of plotting ideas, that it's hard you can't plot that kind of vibe, so that's really all Tom's doing. So yeah, I agree. I mean, I didn't really care much for Mike growing up, but I don't know that I have a favorite one, but I always really love seeing what he's up to. Even in the last issue, 48, when they're being chased by the Stockman swarm, he's still having fun doing cannonballs into the river and things like that. So
I laughed so hard at that.
Yeah, he's a great spirit.
Yep. All right, so we are almost at the end of the road to issue 50. What has been your favorite part of the current arc to this point?
Well, the biggest treat that I get personally as an editor is seeing the artwork come in every day, and I think this story arc has had both Corey and Mateus as some of their best art, so that's been a real treat. In terms of story, it's sort of something. I really liked how we were able to visit Don's journey into the afterlife in 45. But that's also a regret because I wish we could spend more time with Donatello and what he's feeling. We sort of envisioned a whole sequence where we see how his brain works inside Metalhead, sort of a Tron-esque sequence. And that got cut just for time reasons. If we could have done it again, I would have moved some things around and done it a little bit differently, and got more time on Don and more insight into what he's going through in this process. But I think it's been a lot of fun to see Donatello in Metalhead and see. Like in the last issue, see him turn into a boat. It sounds just kind of dumb and stupid, but it's really fun to see. And it's been, and we're gonna, Donatello. We've got a long-running thread of him kind of struggling with spirituality and what a soul means, and we're gonna continue to explore that. And this has obviously been a great opportunity to explore that a little bit. Like I said, I wish we could have got into it more, but I'm happy that we were able to get into it.
Well, there's your in for a Metalhead one-shot issue. You could do the whole thing, Donnie in his head, and how that works out.
Yeah, we'll talk about all that stuff in a moment when it comes to micros and minis and everything else. As a follow-up, can you give some info on issue 50? Not spoilers for the story, but some info on the release and whatever. I saw in the solicits there are going to be numerous covers. How many will there be? And I know since it's a double-sized issue, it's going to be $7.99. So how many covers are those die-hard cover collectors going to have to buy?
That's a good question. So many that I don't know off the top of my head. We have just just last week we closed the orders to retail exclusive covers. I think we've got 8 or 9 of those. And then for our normal covers, we've got the A cover, we've got the Kevin cover, we've got a Gabriel Rodriguez cover. We've got a cover, a Jack Kirby cover. He did the only drawing that Kirby ever did of the Turtles. He gave to Kevin and Peter, and then Kevin has kept that, and he inked it actually.
Oh my
so that's
golly!
Going to be a wide release, and also a different Rodriguez, Robert Rodriguez, the film director. He is inking a cover that Kevin did. They're friends, and so this is Robert Rodriguez's first published comic book art, if I'm not mistaken. So some cool special stuff there, and then a good bevy of retail exclusive covers, and I've seen there's some really cool, unique concepts there that they're doing that are a little bit different than the normal retail exclusive cover. So I think it's an appropriate celebration of the milestone, and it's like you said, it's 48 pages, so that's bigger than a double-sized. Our normal issues are 22 pages, so. And really, we use every single one of those pages. I'm really proud of number 50. So without getting into what happens, we'll see we're working on it right now. So knock on wood, hopefully it does get finished. But so far it's the issue I'm most proud of. I'm excited for people to see it.
I'm interested. In the beginning, reading Dan Duncan's art line and getting the hints of the Technodrome coming, I imagined that, knowing you guys had the 50 issue mapped out, that the Technodrome was going to be the big arc. But now we have Donnie's story going on and Baxter doing his Fly Swarm. I kind of almost don't know what incredible climactic thing could happen just yet, but I think it's going to get real hairy. Hairier than it is now in the next couple of issues. But you're at 50 now. Probably I imagine art and colors are coming in. It's going to go to the printers very soon. How far are you out into the future? I mean, your biggest outline. I'm always hoping that IDW makes it past issue 72, because that was the line that Archie drew in the sand for the longest Turtle series.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm very eager to pass that myself.
Oh, you absolutely will.
I mean, we've got ideas. We've got a loose beat sheet going up to 100. So just kind of the basic story arcs of, and I'm sure it'll get rearranged as these things do. But we've got this net. We've got through issue 60 pretty tightly plotted. Tom is scripting 52 right now. 51 is being drawn by artist Ken Gearing concurrently with number 50. So we can get ahead a little bit there. So that's sort of where we're at right now. I'm looking at the next storyline after 55, the storyline of 56 through 60, kind of plotting that out right now. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Any vague adjectives or nouns? I definitely don't want you to give away specifics, but I don't know, where's the post 50 going to take our emotions?
Yeah, no, I really can't say anything because number 50 is a bit of a game changer, and the first story arc is going to be kind of dealing with the aftermath of that. But we will be returning to Burno Island and the Technodrome and see what's going on there after that storyline. So around 55, 56, we'll be getting out of New York City again.
Let me ask before I move on here, because I have to ask this since we already brought up somebody emailing or writing into you guys and asking them to have you guys not have all the websites on the internet post spoilers. The issue 50 or I forget, one of the solicitations. In the solicitation it said, on the road to 50, the final issue. it said something about the final issue there somewhere, and I know you just told us that you guys have mapped out through 60 so far, and you're gonna eventually get up to 100. But was that something IDW? Was that something you guys on the editorial team sent websites, or is that just something they wrote in there? Because I remember reading those solicitations for the issues that are already out now. 2, 3, 4 months ago, 5, 6, 7 months ago, and I'm like, the final issue, seriously, they're stopping at 50. I was really mad at that.
Yeah, no, that was definitely that was from us, but that was just, I think, us not thinking a lot of people did get that impression, but that was not our intention at all. I think the exact wording was something like the final storyline leading up to number 50.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So, to me that says that's. And I think there was another qualifying statement after that saying, like, this is, like, what everything's been building to since the start. And that's all accurate. This is the sort of the final storyline in this grander scheme of it. It lays to rest a lot of what was established in the first year. But the point being is that a lot of people got the impression that number 50 was going to be the final issue, and that was never. No one thought that for a second. We did talk about maybe relaunching the series with a new number 1 after 50. That was briefly discussed internally, but there was never intention for it to be the last issue. But I definitely, you're not alone in that impression.
I remember reading that in I think it was Comic Shop News. They did that same, used the lines leading up to the end, and I kind of immediately figured, there's a misunderstanding there. There's a miscommunication. It's going to go on forever, and they're just that's okay. I get it. And I immediately climbed out of the tree and said, okay, we're fine. This great book's not going anywhere.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the micros and the miniseries and all that good stuff. With so many miniseries like Turtles in Time and TMNT Ghostbusters and Mutanimals and now Casey and April, we're just at least Joe and I, for the most part. I know Joe's not the biggest fan of TMNT GB, but we're loving the spotlight on the other characters from the ongoing. These miniseries allow more character growth that might not fit into the main book. What's your favorite part about crafting the miniseries stories?
I think just essentially what you said, getting a chance to explore the supporting characters in the world a bit more. We really have sort of a breakneck pace in the ongoing itself, and that's something I think is important. But I also kind of wish we could slow down in the main storyline. I think we will after 50. But that being said, I am really thankful that we have the chance to explore the world more in the side series, and that we've got sales that can support those side series. That's these stories are there's great action, there's great art, there's great plot twists, but all of that's sort of meaningless without interesting characters. And the more you can flesh out those characters and make them real and relatable, that's crucial for the narrative. So. I'm just really thankful we have those opportunities because they're fun in and of themselves, and we always try and make them really matter. We always try and either introduce new ideas or new characters that affect the ongoing. So you can read the ongoing without that stuff, but your experience is going to be greatly enhanced if you are reading the side series. So I'm proud that we've been able to create stories that work on their own, but also are part of this larger, rich universe.
Are there any editor tricks or secrets or troubles that you have trying to keep the books, occurring, releasing at the right time or tying in together? Is there a challenge to that?
It hasn't been it was City Fall and the Villain Micros were really hard because that was sort of a week by week thing, and you learn something in the Cry Micro that you need to know in the next issue of the ongoing. That's about as interconnected as it gotten, and that was a big headache. And there's a reason why we haven't done that since then, because I was just like, that was really hard to pull off. Let's just pick the one creative.
We want more micros.
Yeah, I love the micros too, and would love to revisit that. And what's really nice is what's going to happen post. It's still in development, but what's going to happen post Turtles Batman will allow us to take that sort of we'll kind of be able to combine the micro and the miniseries approach into one cohesive thing. I can't really. That's pretty vague, but hopefully
it was after I had read all the Mutanimals issues and Joe and I recorded that show that I was like, oh my God, we need a Mondo micro, we need a Herman micro, we need micros for the Mutanimals. It's really what we need, because I mean, don't get me wrong, I love that miniseries, and Paul Allor did an amazing job on the writing and Andy Kuhn on the art, but like I just want, and the funny thing is, I think I said in that podcast that what I would really want now for a miniseries is some sort of like buddy cop team up thing with Mondo, with Mondo and Herman, because of how Paul Allor had characterized them in the first 2 issues of the Mutanimals miniseries. I mean, Herman is this guy that doesn't know what to do with himself unless he's in the heat of battle, and Mondo can get serious, but he's mostly chill half the time. So that would be amazing. I know it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah,
it would be amazing.
Some good news for you, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, is we are going to be revisiting Hobb and the Mutanimals in between issues 51 and 55. So they're before the end of the year, we're going to see more of those guys. So stay tuned.
Awesome.
I'm slowly. I'm with all those minis and micros. I'm hoping that they eventually mutate into the Tales of the Turtles that the Mirage books used to do. But I say that, and then I love what you guys have done, weaving the story back and forth between those. But maybe someday it might be fun to see weird, oddball writers and artists take on the Turtles for an out of continuity fun fest. I don't know, but I don't think I want to see that anymore. I think I just want you guys to keep doing what you're doing, because it's been amazing.
Out of continuity stuff. Nuh-uh. No way. They've spent 4 years, man. Come on
right.
Now.
You're right.
Well, the thing, I think I've got what's going to happen is I think we'll please both of you guys, in that what I hope to do after Turtles Batman is to do stories that are in continuity, but are more creator focused, in that it'll allow for writer artists to kind of put their own, to kind of tell their own stories and kind of put their own unique stamp on it. So it's still, going to be in continuity, and I'm going to be looking over it. But what I'd like to do is inject some weirdness here and there too. So I think we're on the same page.
Awesome.
That kind of sounds like Tales of the Turtles.
So you've mentioned it twice already, and this is the big reason for this interview, folks, is because at San Diego Comic-Con, IDW Publishing announced a collaboration with DC Comics, and we are getting a Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover. Tell us as much as you can, without spoil. Like, I want to know stuff like how many issues is it going to be, how long is it going to run, who's on the writing and the art, all that stuff, without actually spoiling the story for us.
Sure. It's going to be a 6-issue miniseries starting in December. DC is running it, so it's their creative team, but James Tynion is writing it, who writes a lot of the Batman. I think he's writing Batman Eternal right now. Freddie Williams III, who I've talked to a lot. He did a cover during City Fall. I think maybe issue 24, and he's been chomping at the bit to work on Turtles forever, and it's just been an issue of me finding the right project for him and the timing working out. And DC was talking to me, Jim Chadwick, the editor over there who's doing Turtles Batman. He wanted my input on if I had any suggestions for creative team, and I said, well, Freddie is a guy that has worked for you guys. I know he loves Turtles. And Jim said, I'm talking to Freddie right now. I think he's a great idea too. So that was one of those rare things where we both had the exact same idea in terms of artists. So and I know this is dream come true. I actually got to introduce Freddie to Kevin Eastman at Comic-Con, and I think I made his Comic-Con by doing that. He was really happy to meet Kevin. And Kevin was happy to meet him too. Kevin is a huge Batman fan. He's going to be doing some covers. So those are for the logistics. In terms of plot, the Turtles, against their will, are teleported to Gotham, and shenanigans are afoot from there. So
it's similar to how they got to Ghostbusters New York.
Yeah, it's a little different. So it's not the exact same device,
right.
that narrative device that got them there, but the end result is the same. That they are fish out of water again in an unfamiliar place with unfamiliar characters. But the similarities really end there. Gotham is a very different place than Ghostbusters New York. So it should be interesting. What's really exciting to me is we were talking about characters earlier, is to see how the Batman universe characters both have similarities and differences from the Turtles, and getting to explore those characteristics a little bit is the thing that I'm most excited to see in that miniseries.
So before Joe asks his next two questions here, I just have to know, because we already mentioned continuity earlier, is this, because DC is running this, you said, is this going against the continuity, or is this adding to it for TMNT?
It's not in official IDW continuity. What it is, though, is these turtles are inspired by our turtles. They're, in terms of characteristics and I think to a large degree their history. They're our turtles, but it does not, for reasons that will become clear as things move on. It is not in actual our turtles continuity.
Okay.
So you said earlier that DC came to you to propose this. I couldn't imagine the logistics between essentially two competitors doing this. Or what are the details of who called who with the idea?
Essentially, it was, what's really nice about working at IDW is we're kind of the company that's friends with everyone. We do a lot of, the artist editions that we do. We have to get permission from either Marvel or DC or like Magnolia or at Dark Horse. So we've got a lot of goodwill. We treat their stuff with care. We do a lot of crossovers with people. We'd already done Green Lantern, Star Trek. That's happening right now.
That was interesting.
And so, this was a year or two ago. The heads of the company here were meeting with the heads of the company at DC, and they're exploring what might work well in terms of crossovers. And a couple of different things were discussed. We also did, I believe, Star Trek, not Justice League, but Star Trek. Why am I blanking? What's the other?
It's on the tip of my tongue too.
Star Trek Daredevil?
No, Star Trek League of what is the like Superboy was a part of it. The other team that's like
Legion of Superheroes.
Legion of Superheroes. Thank you. I am a genuine comic book nerd. I just the name escaped. So we did that. We did Star Trek Green Lantern, and this is the next next evolution of our creative partnership with them. And we kind of, we did Star Trek, Green Lantern, and they're doing DC Turtles, Batman. So we kind of switch off editorial duties. But beyond that, I couldn't tell you what kind of business deal was reached. That's above my pay grade.
I mean, we understand that. We were just wondering on the logistics of how it came together, as far as the creative stuff.
So if
it's essentially, in terms of Turtles Batman, they put together the team, and then they ended up running things through me and through Nickelodeon, and we all kind of come to an agreement. But it didn't, it was pretty easy. It was James put together a really good story, so it should be awesome. Should be a lot of fun.
So if this crossover is happening, anything is possible. What would be your dream Ninja Turtles crossover now that this has happened? If you got to pick anything else.
I'm personally not a big crossover guy. I know Kevin would die if we could do a Turtles Daredevil for obvious reasons.
No way.
My show notes say the right answer is a Daredevil crossover.
We talk to Marvel on occasion about doing crossovers. So far, it doesn't seem like anything's in the works, but we remain optimistic. For me, well, that's actually, I said I don't really care for crossovers, but there is one crossover I'm continuously fighting for every month, every year. My favorite comic book of all time is Usagi Yojimbo, and obviously they've done that crossover in the past, back in Mirage days. I'd love to see it happen again. Small steps are taken, over time. So I'm optimistic, but can't say it's not. There's no certainty at all yet. But I hope one day.
My assumption on that, and I don't know anything of anything, but I just have this feeling that Stan Sakai is a little scared of Nickelodeon having access to Usagi. Like, he trusts Eastman and Laird and let them run with his characters sometimes. But I hope that business relationship will get worked out and that they can handle it and that we can eventually see our Rabbit Samurai in your book. But yeah, that's I forgot to think about that. That's totally right.
Yeah, no, well, I'd love it too. So
yep,
absolutely.
All right, so New Animated Adventures. It's getting a rebrand a bit. You tell us what is entailed with the rebrand and where the direction of that series is going now. Because the series to this point has just been little mini stories that kind of tie in but don't really tie into the cartoon series.
Yeah, this month, now that we're in August, geez, I just realized that out loud, is Amazing Adventures #1, and basically what we are doing, it's the same basic approach in that we've got a sort of a main story that usually will last 2 issues and then backup stories. So the format's the same, but what is different is, I think, the content. We've got more freedom now. We can create new characters. We don't have to stay as confined to the continuity of the television show so much. So, if Leatherhead is in Dimension X, we don't have to worry about that so much. We can just say, oh, he's here in New York City, and tell a story, go for a story that we have with him, which is really nice. It was tricky sometimes. We'd say, oh, we want to do a story with Pizza Face. Oh no, we can't do a Pizza Face story because who knows, he's going to appear in the next season. So we don't have to worry about that so much now. Nickelodeon was understandably concerned about confusing readers and having everything in line. But now that both the comics and the series is pretty well established, they're saying, oh, hey, have a little bit more freedom, have a little bit more fun in the types of stories you're telling. So I think that allows us to really play in that universe, and it's a great universe to play in. It's a great version of the Turtles. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the first storyline, which features a brand new villain from both Splinter and Shredder's past. And what's also great is that the backup stories now are going to be more sort of creator spotlights, where ideally it's either going to be a cartoonist who is both a writer and an artist doing it, or sometimes a writer will pair with a specific artist to kind of capitalize on that artist's talent. So it's more sort of a focused, specialized, creator-focused series. The #1 is we have a really funny backup by James Kochaka, who is a hilarious cartoonist that I've been a fan of for years. I'm actually looking at a collection of American Elf here at my desk. And so those are going to be a little bit more special and memorable too, I think. So I think overall it's a version 2.0 where we get to have more fun, tell crazier stories. And it's basically the series I wanted to start out with. But just due to the logistics of the cartoon being new, some things were hard to pull off. But it's exciting to have that freedom now.
How does editing the new animated adventures is that role different from editing the IDW verse books?
Yeah, it is. We had a fair amount of scrutiny on our IDW series early on because it was the first Turtles product that was coming out of Nickelodeon at the time before the cartoon came out. But then, they realized, okay, we know what we're doing. We're not going to, destroy the franchise. They gave us a bit more freedom. And at this point, our notes we get from Nickelodeon are pretty minimal, and they're extremely supportive of us. Then the animated comic book came around. Right, and then the animated adventures book came out, and it was kind of like that control came back. So it had to be routed through not only Nickelodeon Central but also the studio, and rightfully so. It's their world, but that sort of making sure it had to go through a bunch of different levels of approvals came back. And for an editor, that's never kind to deadlines. That process, so it's a stressful process. And so I'm excited that the world is opening up a little bit, and we get a little bit more freedom. So.
Wow, it seems kind of how the Archie series started out, really tied close to the cartoon, but then by a certain issue, it just took off and became its own thing. I'm glad to see this, and I've purchased every issue, and maybe someday I will. Well, I will someday read all these, and I'll definitely read them with my son when he just gets a little bit older to get it. But this sounds like another book that I'll have to read while I'm still parked in the parking lot at my comic store. So I'm excited for.
Exactly. Yeah, Adventures. I was a huge fan of Adventures too, and so it's really nice that I always wanted our animated book to be a new version of what Archie did back then. So I'm happy we're moving closer in that direction.
Okay, let's go behind the scenes.
I'm excited for the news that came. I think it was San Diego Comic-Con or slightly before it. You guys have a board game coming out based on the IDW series. Can you tell us about it? Have you had a chance to play it, and how much of the story of it is kind of coming from the comics?
I can't tell you much about it. It's still in design stage, but it sounds really cool. I think we've got some meetings coming up in just this next week or two to talk about the story more. Right now, the game mechanics are being worked out, and it sounds like you can choose. You can play as one of the turtles. It can be a 5-person game where you got 4 people playing the turtles, and then 1 person playing as Shredder and the Foot Clan, so sort of as the villain role. So, I love games like that have a cooperative but also antagonistic, game mechanic to it. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that there's going to be character figurines based on our art. I hope we get characters like Old Hob that have never had an action figure. Be great to, I'll keep that on my desk. I can't tell you that much about it just because I'm not in the games department, and we haven't had those sort of formal meetings yet. But everything I've heard about it so far is really exciting, and I'm a gamer myself, so I'm super psyched about it. And apparently, there's a lot of Gen Con was just this weekend, and IDW was there, and just today, this morning, one of our games guys was saying that's what was being asked about more than any other game was our Turtles game. So it seems like there's a lot of interest in it. So
I'm relatively new to the designer board game world, but I want to be a fan. I think this is going to be the perfect in for me. It sounded from the description like it was going to kind of be built like Mice and Mystics, where there was a scripted story, and I was like, okay, I will be happy to DM that for new players. But if there's that villain element, or for lack of a better term, a dungeon master controlling it, that sounds like it might be a little more open-ended, and I'm a fan of that open-ended stuff that still is kind of story-based, so I'm excited for that, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Next behind-the-scenes question. You guys are in the IDW, and I guess tying in with the Nickelodeon Adventures series too, you guys are pulling from so many different places throughout Turtles history and putting in your own ideas. You guys must be doing a ton of research, or have done the research. Is there a research library at IDW, or are you relying on your own collections? How do you cram for the exam when you're writing these books?
Yeah, we got virtually everything. Not complete. I think there's still a good amount of Mirage Volume 4 that we don't have. But when we first got the license, Viacom kind of sent us everything, both hard copies and digital copies of everything that they got from the Mirage warehouses. So we've got we've got a lot of it. I read up through volume 2 as a teenager, so I was pretty familiar with that stuff. I read adventures up through a good, pretty close to the end, I think. So I was sort of naturally familiar with all of that stuff, and that's stuff that we still consult with. We just go on our server and pull out an issue, or maybe I'll go into my closet and take out an issue. So then that's always fun, and it's been great. What's great now is having the Ultimate Collections too, because those are this really nice. Those are right at my desk, so if I ever want to pull out the Eastman Laird issues, I can just grab that immediately and see what they did. And, that's fun.
How far are there plans to continue to publish through Volume 2 and maybe not the image stuff, maybe the image stuff, but then into Volume 4?
We're doing Volume 2 right now, and image will be next year. We plan to touch it all if we can. I'll be sad if we don't. So I certainly
very
hope
cool.
we can.
I know some of the tail end of Volume 4 is difficult to get a hold of from personal experience, because that's what I was working on. I recently got every Turtle book. I'm very happy about that, but I imagine that can be very difficult, as you need that stuff to do the research that you're doing.
Sure. I haven't read the last 5 issues or so. So
you can borrow mine if you want.
Okay, cool.
You're working in this office. I imagine a lot of the art comes in digitally because maybe these guys are everywhere, but just working where you do, you've probably had an opportunity to get some very interesting Turtle collectibles. What is your favorite piece of art, or I don't know, swag's not the right word, but what piece do you have in the office or at home that you are most ridiculously proud of?
Well, I've got the NECA turtle action figures on my desk. They're my own personal possession that I love to look at and play with. But what's kind of cool is that IDW moved about 2-3 years ago, months ago, to a new location, and we've got an art gallery now. Ooh. And what's in the art gallery is a Kevin Eastman exhibit. So there's just it's an entire room filled with preliminary sketches, original inked artwork, notes. We've got a recreation of Kevin's office, which this is just filled with crazy memorabilia. If you're ever in San Diego, you got to check it out if you're a Turtles fan, because it's just your jaw drops. There's so much cool stuff there, and Kevin has kept so much of his records, and it's really cool to see.
I was going to ask if that place is public. It sounds like it is.
To hell with Comic-Con, Joe. We got to catch the next flight out there.
Absolutely.
So what are you reading right now? You said you're a comic geek, and I think we talked a little bit about it last podcast. But what comic books are currently in your pull bag?
Geez, I read a lot.
How do you have time for that?
Well, we kind of have a monthly, a weekly, editorial kind of as a group go to the comic book store and pick stuff up on Wednesdays, and that's what weekends are for. I read a lot of image books. I'm a huge fan of Southern Bastards. I'm trying to think of what else. Mind Management. I still read a fair amount of Marvel and DC. I am a huge Batman fan. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I like a lot of the quirky books that are coming out of Marvel, like Howard the Duck and Squirrel Girl. This is one of those things you ask and your mind just goes blank. But
like when I go to the record store.
Yeah, exactly. Descender, the new Jeff Lemire, Dustin Wynn book is really great.
I read the first issue of that. Yeah, I read the first issue of Descender. I'd been meaning to catch up.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's good stuff. No, there's a ton. We are in a golden age of comics. There's too many good books out there, and that's a good problem to have.
Not for my wallet.
No, true.
No, very true. All right, so the fandom. Let's talk about the fandom just for a moment before we let you go. We're 4 years in at this point to the IDW verse. What is the overall reaction been for you guys at this point?
flabbergasting. It's been fantastic. It's the fandom is extremely intelligent and kind and creative. At Comic-Con, we had at the Turtles panel, it was a packed room. We would have 2-hour signings with Kevin, and you're like, a lot of signings they kind of peter out by 40 minutes or so, but that was just 2 hours of just people after people after people. The response to number 44 and how that kind of got wider media attention. It's been really fantastic. It's if you look at the sales, we kind of dipped in sales between issue 1 and 15, but then it just plateaued, and then it went up some during City Fall, and then it went down a little bit, but above where it was before City Fall, and now it's gone back up again past where City Fall was. And when you're at a issue 44, you're 4 years into that, and if you just look at any comic book, pretty much except for Walking Dead and maybe a few others, it's really rare for sales to be that consistent and not necessitate a reboot or a relaunch with a new number 1. So the fact that we've been able to get to 50 and all signs point to a long future ahead of that has been extremely satisfying. And that's, we're working our asses off and putting out a good book, I think. But it's the fan base doing that, and the fan base talking to each other, and people like you guys doing your thing, spreading the word. It feels like a family, and that's what Turtles is all about. So it's really great to be a part of that family.
I've read on more than one website and heard from more than one people or more than one person, and I happen to agree that you guys are creating the best version of the Turtles that we've ever had a chance to read. I'm sure you've read that other places. I mean, how does that affect you? I mean, you grew up with the Turtles like I did. You and Tom and Kevin with his part. You guys are giving birth to a lot of people's favorite version of these characters. What does that do to you as a former 10-year-old geek reading these books?
It feels great, and it's very flattering, but I disagree with that assessment personally. I think the original Eastman Laird stuff is impossible to beat. I think the first movie was pretty perfect in terms of encapsulation of what Turtles can be. And here's the thing, is that we are doing new stuff, and we're putting pieces together in new ways, and we're contributing brand new ideas. But if we didn't have all that stuff that came before us, we'd be, I was about to say, a shell of the book that we are, which is not an intentional pun, but let's go with it. So, Kevin is always says that, any success that he and Peter had was built on the people like Frank Miller and Jack Kirby, and that there'd never be Turtles without people like them. So we're just one step further down that path, standing on Kevin and Peter's shoulders, and they're standing on the great shoulders as well. So, hope maybe someone will stand on our shoulders down the line, but, we really pale in comparison to some of the stuff that's coming before us. So, it's great to hear, but I'm always very aware of what's come before us, and all of those accomplishments, because it's a lot harder to create something totally new without 30 years of fandom to draw upon. So we're really lucky. We're in a unique position and extremely lucky.
All right. Would you like to inform the people where they can interact with you online, sir?
Sure. I'm the Disastrix at just the Disastrix at Twitter. Or you can just look up my name, Bobby Curnow. I answer questions on the IDW forum in the Turtles section, so those are good ways to get in touch with me.
Awesome. So before we let you go, we need you to run down the list of what's currently happening. We know Casey and April's going on, and we know that 48's out, but what else is coming up, just to remind the listeners?
Right now, the next issue coming out in August will be Turtles 49, and September is number 50. We've got Amazing Adventures number 1 out this month in August. We're right in the middle of the Casey and April miniseries. Turtles Batman starts in December. And that's we've got our Color Classics lines, too, that if you ever want to check out the old material. And our reprints are doing the Archie stuff and the Mirage stuff, so it's a great time to be a Turtle fan. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Awesome. We'd like to thank Mr. Curnow for taking the time to chat with us in this latest interview here inside the Pull Bag on the Geekcaster Radio Network.
I, in turn, named them after my favorite Renaissance painters. I knew the outside world would consider them freaks, so I trained them in the art of ninjutsu. Donatello, whose simple wooden bull can disarm any adversary. Raphael, no sword on earth can withstand his sai. Leonardo, his swordsmanship is unmatched. Michelangelo, master of the whirling nunchakus.
And master of the whirling pizzas.
And that is how they became the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.